Hello children, let me welcome you to the virtual class of the Brihan Mumbai Mahanagar Palika. My name is Shraddha teacher. Children, we are in the middle of this COVID-19 pandemic, and because of that we are not able to go to school, but that doesn't mean we are going to stop learning. So we are going to do many lessons which are very interesting from your textbook through the virtual class here. So let us do a lesson in English today. So children, let us start with the last lesson in standard 9th English, and the name of the lesson is lesson number 4.5 Tansen. Now you can see an image of Tansen here. Okay, now this lesson is about a musician. Okay, so it is a poem written about a musician, and he was a musician who was a part of King Akbar's court, and he was one of the 9 jewels of King Akbar's court. Alright, so in this poem we will try to learn a little bit about music, a little bit, okay, and there are certain exercises in vocabulary about ancient or archaic words. So we will look at some words in English, and surprisingly we will look at some words in our mother tongue also. Alright, and then we will read the poem. I'll try and explain the meaning of the poem to you. So this is going to be a very interesting lesson, children, where we are going to learn about a very ancient musician. So come on, let's start with the lesson number 4.5, Tansen. So like I told you, this is a lesson related to Indian classical music. So we are not going to learn anything about music here, but we are going to learn about a musician. We're going to learn about his life. Okay, so you can see a lot of instruments here. So Indian classical music, it has got to do with instrumental music also, and it has got to do with vocal music also. That is, people used to play a number of instruments, and people used to also sing. They used to use their voices in order to sing. Alright, so see, they used to use and play various instruments like the tabla, the veena, okay, and also they used to sing also. The musicians, they used to play the instruments and sing. So singing as well as playing these instruments are all part of Indian classical music. So you can see here, she's singing, and in the previous picture here, he is singing as well as playing an instrument. So this is about Indian classical music, a little bit of information. Now let us learn about something else in Indian classical music. So if you look at the first, you can say, exercise in the warming up part, it is that Indian classical music consists of many ragas. Now children, before we move ahead, let me ask you to open your English textbooks and come to page number 105. So whenever we do a lesson in English, I always tell you to open the textbook and come to the page where I am on, so we can understand what I am telling you. Okay, you can connect with me. So Indian classical music, it consists of many ragas. Okay, and we have a small exercise also on it. But before we go to the exercise, let us try to understand what a raga means. So raga, which is also spelled as rag in North India, and in south, that is in the southern part of India, people call it as ragam. So this word rag or raga or ragam has got its origin in Sanskrit, and it means a color, or it means passion. Okay, passion means a very strong feeling. In the classical music of India, Bangladesh and Pakistan, so you know, we were all one big nation. It was after the partition in 1947 that the subcontinent, it broke up into India, Bangladesh and Pakistan. So we share a common history, you can say, as far as music is concerned. So in Bangladesh as well as in India as well as in Pakistan, we call it as the rag, raga, ragam, etc. What is it then? The rag or the raga is nothing but a melodic framework, okay, which is used by musicians for improving their music or for composing their music. So you always need a background, you always need a framework to work on, isn't it? Whether it is music, whether it is writing, whether it is poetry. So in the same way, for musicians, the framework that they use for improving their music or for composing new music is the basic raga. All right, and so now let us try and find out the names of some ragas. So this is the exercise that we have. So you have to find out from an expert or the internet the names of at least 10 ragas and the time when they are sung to produce greater effect. That is, I will do half the exercise myself, and I will give the remaining half to you. So Indian classical music, it consists of many ragas. So we are supposed to find out the names of 10 ragas from an expert or the internet. Now I have used the internet because in these times of COVID we cannot go out and meet people. Okay, so I have used the internet and I have improvised this exercise a little bit. So what I have done is I will show you the name of the raga and I will show you for what it is used. That is, what is the use of this particular raga. Now you will find out from the internet when this raga is effective. That is, whether you should sing it in the morning or the evening or night or noon, etc. Alright, so a little bit of work I have done and a little bit of work you have to do. So let us see the name of the raga. So the first raga which I have picked up is Rag Nilambari. The name of the raga is Nilambari. And when is it effective, or why do people use it for? People use it to induce sleep. That is, if you are having a problem of insomnia, that is, you are not able to sleep normally, then people go to or turn to this particular raga. They listen to this particular raga so that sleep is induced in them. Now it is up to you to find out when this raga is sung. So is it sung in the mornings, afternoons, nights? So we can use a little bit of a common sense also here, but then I want you to find this out. Okay, then let's look at the next raga. So we have the raga Hans Dhwani. Now Hans, as you must be knowing, we call a very beautiful bird, the swan, we call it as the Hans. So the Hans Dhwani is the sound of the swan. Now when do you use it? Why do you use it? You use it for happiness. That is, if you're feeling down and if you want to improve your mood, you want to feel happy, then you play and you listen to the Hans Dhwani. So find out when it is effective. Then one more raga, let us see the raga which is called as Bhatiyar. So when do we use Rag Bhatiyar? For what purpose do we use Rag Bhatiyar? For meditation. So if you want to meditate, if you want to do dhyan, if you want to focus on something, then you play the Rag Bhatiyar. It helps you to concentrate your energy on something. Okay, and one last one, let me see. It is called as the Megh Malhar. Now the Megh Malhar is here connected to the person that we are going to talk about. That is, we are going to talk about Tansen. We are going to read about Tansen. So Tansen, it is said in history that when he sang the Rag Megh Malhar, it used to actually rain. Okay, so Megh Malhar is sung for rains. So when it doesn't rain for a very long time and it is supposed to rain, it is the monsoon but it is not raining, Rag Megh Malhar, it actually summons the clouds and it makes the clouds pour rain on a particular region. So now what is the work that you will have to do? You will have to find out the time when this is effective. Okay, so at what time should you sing it in order to make it effective? And of course, you have to find out the names of some more ragas. So this is an example, and now you can use the internet. Okay, or if you are lucky enough in your family, if you have some person who knows about music, you can ask them also. I am not an expert on music. I have picked up all this information from the internet. Alright, so this is an exercise about ragas. Now in the next exercise, children, we are going to talk about something very interesting. We are going to talk about archaic words. So archaic words are those words that are no longer used in a language. So it is not only in English that you have archaic words, but you have archaic words in a number of other languages too. But sometimes the usage adds a historical or old times flavor to a piece of writing. So people still use archaic words some places, somewhere, to add effect. Okay, so most of the times you will see that archaic words are used in drama or they used in poetry. So there is a small exercise related to archaic words, but before that let us take a look at some archaic words here. So see, we have some examples for you from the textbook. So you have forsooth. Forsooth means indeed. Okay, so I have never heard this word before. Before I read it in the textbook, I had never heard this word before. That means people have totally stopped using this word, forsooth. And then you have hither. Hither means this place. When you say na, come hither, means come here, or come to me, come to this place where I am. Then you have behold. So behold means to look. We say na, lo and behold. So that is to look. Afeared means be frightened of someone or something. So afeared, you can connect it a little bit to the word which we use in modern times, frightened. So fear has got to do with fright or to worry. Okay, so these are examples of some archaic words. Now we have a very interesting example, or we have a very interesting exercise in our book. They've asked us to find out some archaic words from your mother tongue or another language that you are proficient in, and write down at least 10 of them, and against each their modern equivalent and meaning in English. So the mother tongue for all of us could be different, isn't it? But since we are living in Maharashtra, I am going to take Marathi as our common mother tongue. So we will look at, of course, some examples in Marathi, and they've also said in any other language that you are proficient in. So see, for 9 long years we've been learning in English. We've gone to an English medium school. So let me assume that all of us are reasonably proficient in English. That is, we know a good amount of English. So I've picked up some archaic words from English also, and then we will look at some archaic words from Marathi too. Alright, so let us start with some archaic words in English. So the word is slay. And what is the modern word for slay? It is murder. And what is the meaning of murder in English? Murder means to kill someone, to take someone's life. Then let me show you the next word, smite. What is the modern equivalent for smite? It is bash. Okay, and the meaning in English is to defeat or to conquer someone. Bash could have another meaning when you hit someone very badly, when you beat up someone, even that is called as bash. Okay, then the next word is steed. So what does steed means? A steed means a pony. And in English, it means, what is the meaning of pony? Pony is a young horse. Alright, let's take one more word here in English, yonder. And what does the modern word for yonder say? It says beyond. And the meaning is over there. So like we said, hither, here, in this place. Yonder means over there. Hither means over here. And then you have the word knave. K-N-A-V-E, knave. And what is the modern word for knave? Villain. Okay, who's a villain? A villain is a person who's bad in movies, isn't it? So a dishonest man is a villain. Someone who's a negative character. And then we have the word in Marathi. So I've tried to pick up some words in Marathi. So the first word, the archaic word in Marathi is fadtal. Okay, so we have a word in Marathi. We had a word, in fact, in Marathi called as fadtal. And what is a modern equivalent of the word fadtal? It is kapat. A kapat which you have in the wall. A wall cupboard. And what is the meaning in English? A cupboard in the wall. So in the olden times, we used to have these cupboards or the places in the walls which had these kind of compartments, and you could keep your things in. Even now we have these wardrobes which are like cupboards in the wall. So fadtal is one Marathi archaic word. Let us look at a few more Marathi archaic words. So let us take the next word. It is kathvat. Okay, and the meaning of kathvat is lakdi parat. So what is a parat? A parat is a kind of a big tray or a dish your mother uses in order to mix flour, to make dough out of wheat flour, etc. So parat or kathvat in English means a wooden tray. So the spelling is tray. Okay, By mistake, we have missed out the A. So it is a wooden tray or a plate. Then let's look at the next word. It is Zarokavza Khidki. Now this is a word which we are hearing a lot nowadays. So what is the meaning of Zarokavza Khidki? It simply means ventilator. And because of this COVID pandemic, because of the patients requiring oxygen, we are constantly hearing this word ventilator. Alright, so this is a small, you can say, attempt to look at some archaic words. That is, words which were used once upon a time, but now they are no longer in use. Alright, so that was the next exercise. Now we have another very interesting exercise in your warming up part, where we are going to take a look at the 9 gems in Akbar's court. So there are many legends or many stories about the 9 gems in Akbar's court. These are popular tales or stories, and they may not have any historical basis. So they are just stories, okay? They may have been true, they may have not been true. So can you name some of the 9 gems and the stories associated with them? So let us take a look at Akbar in his court along with the 9 gems. So when I told you about Tansen, I told you that he was one of the 9 gems. Okay, so let's take a look at these 9 gems then. So you have Birbal. They were also called as a Navaratna. Now Ratna means jewel or gem, and Nava means 9. So you had Birbal, Tansen, Abul Fazl, Faizi, Raja Todarmal, Raja Man Singh, Abdul Rahim Khan, Fagir Aziuddin, and Mullando Piazza. These were all the people who were considered as gems. Why were they considered as gems? Because they helped the king. They were extremely talented, they were brilliant, and they were like the eyes and ears of the king, Akbar. Okay, they helped him to run the nation, you can say, or his kingdom well. That is why they were called as the Navaratnas. So out of the Navaratnas, we are going to talk about Tansen here in particular. But before that, let us look at some stories. So have you seen or heard stories about Akbar and Birbal? There are many. There are a number of stories about Akbar and Birbal, isn't it? See, one such story that we have heard all along is the story of the Khichdi. So once Akbar was rather not fair to a poor person. Okay, that poor person, he was looking at the light in the court or in the palace of Emperor Akbar from a very far away place, and therefore Akbar decided to punish him, because he felt that when he could see the light, when he saw the light in my palace, he was getting the warmth of the light as well. That is when Birbal decided to teach Akbar a lesson. Now remember, Akbar was the king, okay? And kings in those times, they were very tricky to handle. They might get very angry and they might just punish you. They might just tell someone to kill you. Alright? So Akbar did a very tricky thing, and this famous story is called as Akbar or Birbal ki Khichdi. Alright, so what did Birbal do? See, you can see a pot there hanging far away from the fire, and there is khichdi in the pot. And now Birbal wants to show Akbar that if the fire is really far away, you cannot get any warmth from it. So this was the way that Birbal used to handle a lot of tantrums about Emperor Akbar. Now let us talk a little bit about Tansen now. We're going to learn about him, so let's talk about him. So Tansen, he was born somewhere between 1493 to 1500. We don't know the exact date, and he passed away seemingly on the 26th of April 1586. He was also referred to as Tansen, or he was called as Ram Tanu. That was his name. He was a prominent figure of Hindustani classical music. He was born into a Hindu family, and he learned and perfected his art in the region of Madhya Pradesh. Okay, so he was basically a musician, and he was born into a Hindu family, but he worked for a Muslim king or emperor all his life. Okay, so that was about Tansen. Now let's talk a little bit about the person who's written this poem. So the person who's written this poem is Inayat Rahmat Khan Pathan. Now he was the person who was born on July 5th, 1882, and he passed away on the 5th of February 1927. And he was supposed to be the founder of the Sufi order. So Sufi is a kind of a Sufism, is a kind of a sect. Okay, he founded the Sufi order in the West, that is in London. He founded the Sufi order, and he was a teacher of universal Sufism. So he spread the message of Sufism along the to the people around the world. Okay, especially to the people in the West. Sufism has got its own way of producing music also, called as Sufiana music. So this was about the poet. Now let's come to the lesson. We will I will read the poem for you, and I will try and explain the poem to you. It is written in very simple, easy language, so I'm sure you will be able to understand. And this poem is in praise of Tansen, who was one of the 9 jewels in the court of Emperor Akbar. So come on, let's start with the poem. So Tansen, the singer, in great Akbar's court, won great renown through the Badshahi fort. So renown means he became so famous that everyone in the Badshahi fort, Badshah means the king, they knew about Tansen. Okay, he was a very, very famous singer. His voice rang like the sound of silver bells, and Akbar ravished heard, the story tells. So you can see that he has used the basic concept in poems, that is, he has used rhyming words. So you have court rhyming with fort, you have bells rhyming with tells. So his voice, it rang like the sound of the silver bells. He was at such a sweet voice that when he started singing, Akbar was ravished. What is the meaning of ravished? Ravished means he was enchanted. It was like someone had cast a spell on him, and he was like captured by the magic of Tansen's singing. So that is the story. How the king praised him, gave him many a gem, called him chief jewel in his diadem. So diadem here means his crown. So the king praised him so much, and he rewarded him. He gave him many a gem. Many a gem means he gave him a lot of gifts in return for the way that he used to sing. And he also called him the chief jewel in his diadem. The diadem means it's a crown. Okay, so see, diadem is also in a way an archaic word, because we do not use the word diadem anymore. We always say crown. One day the singer sang the song of fire, the Deepak Rag, and burning like a pyre. Now see, one day the singer, he sang which raga? He sang the Deepak Rag. Now the Deepak Rag is supposed to be a rag where when you start singing, then things start burning. Okay, and burning like a fire, his body burst into consuming flame. To cure his burning heart, a maiden came. So when he was singing, let's go to the last 2 lines. When he was singing the Deepak Raga, his own body burst into a fire. And to douse the fire, or to put out the fire, a maiden came to douse the fire. So now this we actually do not know whether it really happened or it is symbolic. Okay, because someone's body bursting into flames, and then immediately you should get medical attention. But here it is said that a maiden means a girl who is not married. So she came to cure his burning heart. So we actually don't know whether it is his body which went into flame or his heart went into flame. That is, he fell in love with someone. And sang Malhar, the song of water cold, till health returned and comfort as of old. And then they say, a maiden came and she started singing the Malhar. Now what is the Malhar? Malhar means the song of cold water. So when you're burning, when you're getting a burning sensation in your body, if someone pours something cold on it, you feel very relieved, isn't it? So a maiden came and she started singing the Malhar, and slowly Tansen's body stopped burning and he started becoming healthy and comfortable again. So I told you, some of these stories, they are to be taken with a pinch of salt. That is, we really don't know whether it is true or not, but we can just enjoy it. Okay. Anyways, let's look at the remaining lines of the poem. So, mighty thy teacher must be and divine, great Akbar said. Magic indeed is thine. So, Akbar started wondering that a person who is so very talented that when he sings a song or when he sings a raga, his own body goes up into flames. So, what kind of a teacher he must be having? Alright, he said, your teacher must be really, really magical. He said that Tansen was very happy. He said, yes, my teacher was really, indeed, he was very magical. And I have learned from him, and I am so happy that I have learned from him. But he said, then learned at his feet, then happy Tansen bowed and said, beyond the world's ignoble crowd. So he said that my teacher is so great that he feels that he is not worthy of living in this crowd which is ignoble, that is, which is not worthy, okay, which is not good enough for my teacher or for my ustad, as the word which is used here. So where he said his ustad is, he has left everything, he hates, he has scorned or he has disliked the things in the world, and so he has left everything and he has gone away to a far away place, to a cave in the Himalayas. So his teacher, he says, unlike me, he's not singing for a king or he's not singing in order to make money, but my teacher, says Tansen, lives in the form of a recluse or in the form of someone who has given up everything in the world and he is living in a cave in the Himalaya. Now, Akbar, being the king, like I told you, he wanted to see the ustad. So he said, could I see him once, desired the king. Sit at his feet a while and listen. Hear his celestial song. I would deny my state and walk in robes of poverty. He said, I want to see your teacher just once. Okay, I want to sit at his feet and I want to listen to him singing. He said, I want to listen to a celestial song. Celestial here means heavenly song. Songs which are so beautiful that you feel like you have been in heaven. He said, I will give up everything. Okay, he said, I will not go there like a king, because he is a person, your teacher is a person who hates wealth. So I will not go as a king, I will go as a poor person, dressed as an ordinary person. Then said Tansen, as you desire, Huzur, indeed 'twere better as a slave and poor to come. For he lifted above the things of earth, disdains to sing to earthly kings. He said, very good, Huzur, very good, my majesty. I think it is a very wise decision that you have decided to come like a poor person. Because if you would come like a king, then my master, my ustad, will definitely not sing for you. Long was the road, and Akbar as a slave followed Tansen, who rode towards the cave. Now it was a long road, of course, they had to go to the Himalayas, and Akbar in the form of a slave. It is the king who goes ahead and the slaves follow behind. But here Tansen was going ahead and Akbar, like a slave, he was following him to the cave of his ustad or his master. High in the mountain, at the singer's feet, they knelt and prayed with supplication sweet. So, when they reached there, they knelt down at the feet of Tansen's teacher and they prayed with supplication. Supplication means they made a humble request to the king, to the singer, to sing for the king. But the singer doesn't know, the ustad doesn't know that Akbar is a king. Towards thy shrine, lo, we have journeyed long, O holy master. Bless us with thy song. He says that we have come towards your shrine. Shrine in a way means a place of worship. He says, we have come so far, so please bless us with a song. Bless us with a song means please sing a song for us. Then Ustad, won by their humility, sang songs of peace and high felicity. So now Ustad was very happy. He said, see, my student has remembered me after so long. So he sang songs of peace and high felicity. Felicity means joy. Very happy songs he sang. The rag Malkos he sang, the Malkos raga, all ecstatic rang. Ecstatic means happy, rang, till birds and beasts enchanted as he sang. So the birds and the beasts, everyone started hearing him. They were enchanted. The meaning of the word enchanted we have seen, isn't it? So the birds and beasts were so enchanted, they were drawn towards the singer by some magic, and gathered to hear o'er Akbar's dreaming soul. He felt the waves of heavenly rapture roll. Now Akbar also started feeling so happy. A rapture means a feeling of intense pleasure or joy. But as he turned to speak his words of praise, Ostad had vanished from his wondering gaze. He wanted to turn around and praise Ostad. Ostad means the teacher of Tanse. But the moment he turned to praise him, he had already vanished. Tell me, Tansen, what theme this is that holds the soul enchanted and the heart enfolds. He said, what is this that your teacher just sang? My soul was in his hand. I was so drawn towards him, I was so attracted towards him that he had held my heart in high delight. And when he knew the name, tell me again, he said, could you do the same? So Tansen told him that king, Huzur, it was the Malkaus raga. So he was very happy. He said, so see, when you sing the Deepak raga, your body goes up in flames. So can you sing this raga for me so that I can get happy more and more? Theme, sing to lure my heart to paths untrod. He said, can you sing this for me again and again? Tansen replied sadly in the negative. Tansen said, no, to thee I sing, he sings to God. He said, there is a lot of difference between me and him. I sing to you, but he sings to God. Okay, so there are many things that you can learn from this part of the poem. That is, you can learn that there are certain people who are so talented, like the Ustad of Tansen, but they do not sing for money, they do not sing for praise, okay, they just sing for God. Alright, and we also saw how Tansen also had such a great guru, but in spite of becoming a great person himself, he still had so much of love, so much of respect for his own teacher, who is called as Ustad here. Now Ustad is also a word which has changed a bit. Now we say Ustad nowadays. Alright, so this was the poem about Tansen, about King Akbar, and about Tansen's teacher. So hope you enjoyed the poem. Now let us move on to some other exercises. Better. Now we do some more exercises from the English workshop part. So we have one more exercise about archaic words. So, and their modern equivalents. Alright. Now these archaic words we are supposed to pick up from the poem. So these archaic words are not from Marathi or any other subject, but this is from this particular poem. So come on, let me help you with a few of them. So the first one is maiden. Maiden in today's times means an unmarried girl or a spinster, a girl who is not married. A boy or a man who is not married is called as a bachelor. A girl who is not married is called as a spinster. In olden times, she was called as a maiden. Okay. Then we have thy. Now, thy means what? Thy means your. Okay. We have one more word in your textbook, which is thine. Now, thy and thine are closely connected. Thy means your and thine means yours. Okay. And then we have one more word, that is twere. Twere means it were. So in a way it is a kind of a contracted word. Then let's see the next word, thee. Thee means you. Okay children, so this was about the poem Tansen. So we saw many exercises in the warming up part. We saw some exercises in the English workshop part. There is not much of exercise in grammar to be done over here. You have to read the poem, and the exercises based on who said to whom and rearranging is about comprehension. So if you have understood the poem, you will be able to understand the answers also to this. So I leave you here to read the poem once again and try to figure out the other answers in your English workshop part. So that is all for today. Thank you so much. So children, wasn't that a very interesting lesson? I'm sure you learnt a lot of new things in this lesson. If you have liked this video, please hit the like button and also subscribe to my video so that you will get to see all the videos which I keep posting regularly.